Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this week's video, we are going to take a look at some ways that you can use over-the-top stretching of audio in creative ways to kind of add a little bit more to your track. So let's get into it. So number one is taking a vocal performance or vocal section and stretching it out to create a audio bed underneath the track. So for most of the examples, I'm either going to stretch the audio within the DAW, or I'm going to use this plugin that's on the screen now called Pulse Stretch. Now, if you didn't check out my ambient music tutorial, that's cool. This is utilizing the same free plugin. I'll leave a link below to this one as well. And I find this is really good for just kind of stretching things beyond recognition or kind of creating new textures out of audio. So you can see here, I've just imported the audio, and if I bring up the Finder window, I've already got some files that I've put in here to kind of move the tutorial along. So we have this audio, little moody vocal sort of bit, and then I've put it into Pulse Stretch, and you can see the stretch amount is set to 1. So if I play this now, and we go back to the start, it's changed it a little bit, but not so much. It's still about 8 seconds. So let's grab this, and if we move it to the right, you can see the time up here changes. So we go about 50 seconds there. If we go back to the start, and you can hear that just turns it into something completely different. The FFT size will kind of smooth everything out a little bit. So if I pull that down to 0, you can hear it's a little bit crazy. If I go all the way to 100, or all the way to 1 rather, you can hear it really smooths it out. I like to kind of keep it 70, 80, 90 sort of thing. Kind of gives a nice little texture to it, and it still sounds pretty good. We haven't done any pitching to this because we're not going to use any pitch, but you get a basic idea. You can go through and play with the rest of the different things, but for this, we're just stretching the audio. That's all we want to do. We're not pitching it or compressing or filtering it or anything like that. We're going to do all of that within our DAW. So we can close this, and then you can see down here, take off the zoom. Here's our original. And then here is what we ended up with. So it's just under 8 bars. And I have some simple drums, some simple music to go along with it. And I'll show you what I would do to this audio now that we've kind of stretched it out to kind of give us a nice little bed within the track. So first thing I would do is just, oh no, I would keep it like that. I was gonna cut the intro, but I like it like that. So I'd put a little EQ on there and just tighten it up a little bit, filter down the highs a little bit. Next, I'm gonna add the Supermassive. Again, this is another free plugin. It's really good. One preset that I really like is under here, Boards of Aphex. We can kind of pull that mix down, put that delay up, put that feedback up. So you can hear now it's carrying on a little bit. And then from here, I would then maybe put the step effects in there to kind of give a bit more rhythm to it. And we can kind of go through ambience. Just to kind of add a little bit more movement. And then for the filter cutoff, I just don't want it as much. Kind of just modify these a little bit. And now we've got something just kind of hidden in the background. I would obviously put the mix down, put the volume down a little bit, and then lastly, I would just have a little side chain on there as well. And that's just kind of hidden in the background there, but it adds a nice little bit to the actual track. So to take it out, nothing kind of hidden in there. Now it's nicely in there. So number 2 is to slightly stretch some of the audio regions within your drum loop to give it a slightly swung effect or a slightly late effect. So for this, we have our drums here, and then we have our hats here. And I've pulled these already out of the kit. I just kind of found a loop that worked well. And then for these, we can just grab this second one and we can just drag that here. And you can hear there, it just kind of adds a little bit more movement. So we can do it, let's do it every couple. And I go in some random spots. Maybe that one as well. Not a super huge difference, but just enough to kind of keep it a little bit more random and not so over the top different that you can really notice when it's making a change, but it can keep it a little bit more fresh when you got the drum loop going on repeat. With our little bit at the bottom, we'd come in and put a little bit of reverb on these. So number 3 is taking a single note, like a piano hit or a kalimba or something like that, and super stretching it to kind of give it that extra ambient sort of feel. So for this one, again, I've got a marimba rather than a kalimba. Marimba hit, super simple, and then after I put it through Paul stretch, and it's these sort of weirder extreme stretching that you're going to get these sort of different artifacts where you've got the bit at the start and then this big chunk at the back. So let's go with some drums. And again, I'm going to put the EQ on. And then again with that Valhalla. That kind of just helps pull that EQ high down so we're filtering more of those highs out. I think maybe just a filter, auto filter. We're going to turn off the envelope. We're going to turn the sync off. We'll just put the rate at a random amount. We've got LFO. So we want it nice and slow. This is kind of giving us the indication of how slow that is. And we're going to use, yeah, we'll keep it on that one, and then we can just put some of the dry sound in there as well. It's giving us a little bit more movement there. And then I would also just put a little bit of room reverb. And then I've just got like a little triplet delay. And pull that down in the mix a little bit. That gives us a nice little bit of movement there. Obviously, probably need just a little compressor on there as well. And this one's not going to be a sidechain, this is just going to be offering actual compression. Go like that. Just to kind of tame everything and level it out a little bit more. But there you go, we're just taking a single sort of hit and got some more ambience going in there. And I think that really works really well. So number 4 is taking a relatively fast loop, 2 bar, 1 bar, whatever it is, and stretching it to the new BPM. I'm running this session at 120 BPM, which is fairly slow. So I grabbed this Juke drum beat, it's at 160. And I'm going to stretch it and sort of take sections out of it and see if we can find something that works well with the rest of our drums and little bits and pieces we have going on. So I'm just going to pull it down here. And we can stretch this out to 2 bars. So now we have something that's sort of bopping along there. Let's make that 2 bar loop. And then for this, I'm going to just kind of take out some of the bits and pieces rather than kind of adding too much in. We can kind of cut this out. Yeah, we're going to cut that cut out there, clap out rather. Cut that one out. And this one. And we're kind of just reducing this loop down to the bits that we want. And you can see, because we've stretched it out, we're not really on the beat here. Kind of just, this one's pretty much dialed in, but these other hits are pretty loose on there, and that's where we're getting that sort of nice sort of feel. What I'm going to do is come across, put a compressor on there, and put the sidechain compression on, just to kind of tighten it all up a little bit better. Let's go like this here. Move this out of the way. another one of these happening. Maybe take that first hit off. Nah. Let's take these out. I think that's pretty good. Put a little EQ on just to tighten the whole thing up. Put a compressor on here just to compress the actual drums, not any musical compression. About 4:1. Down a little bit, and maybe just a little reverb. Get rid of this one. That's pretty good. We just added another little sort of percussive bit, and it feels a little bit looser than just everything being on the grid. Add that back in with our initial. And let's just loop that right out. And there we go, we have something nice sort of gelling with all those elements so far. Number 5 is taking a field recording, running it through Paul Stretch again to get that extreme stretch, and then putting it into a granular instrument to give us a little bit more options and a little bit more of a different sound palette. So again, I've gone through and searched, and we've got this little park. I think this is an LA park. Different birds and stuff like that. And then I've run it through the Stretch, and we've got this. So let's load up a granular. Green, and for this, we're going to use Serum 2. We're going to change this one to granular, and then we're going to load a sample, desktop, time stretch, and then park stretched. It's going to load up our sample. Now when I play, we can have it go, or we can kind of scan through the bits that we want. So we'll go manual. Want the length up, density up a little bit, and the offset's going to kind of give us a little bit more of a spread. Want the random on the pan, the random on the length, and then the level, we want that up, and we want the main up as well. You can hear all these sort of textures and tones in here. I think it will be best if we just go maybe one shot, and we can just put in a note. P, we'll go C3. We've got our section there. Now if I go back to the start and play it. So it's moving through now. So what we can do, because this is kind of going a little bit crazy, we can just scan it through, yeah. What we can do is we've got position here. Let's put the LFO to the position. And we got it there, and then we're going to pull the rate way down. We want it free. So now it's just going to keep flowing over the top even when it gets back to the start. It's not going to re-trigger that LFO, and it will just keep going through. We can pull this down a little bit. This is obviously a lot faster than I would have it. But we can sort of play around with bits and pieces and kind of see what it's giving us. And again, I would put the sidechain on there, kind of give a bit more rhythmic feel to it, and help the rest of the drums sit through. So let's just quickly put that on. Slow it down so it sort of sits in with the rest of the track. Now you can hear it's really pumping, but kind of helps the rest of the drums sit in and everything else to kind of gel a little bit better. And the last one we're going to do is a phrase that we're going to stretch out, and we're going to put a rhythmic, like a transcade or something like that, to kind of add another rhythmic element that you can kind of introduce a vocal idea before you actually have the vocal line come in. So for this one, we've started with this vocal line here.
It's just me and the city.
And then when I put it through pulse stretch, we got this one.
It's just me and the city.
So let's unmute that.
It's just me.
Now that's a lot to have over the top of everything. So what we can do is, I've tried a couple. We have the Simple Transcade, which is a free plugin from, make sure I get this right, from Kilohertz. We've got Transcade. Now this is kind of a little bit played out with, there's a couple of remixes coming out with this. I really like it, but it's kind of been a little bit overdone at this point. So another one we can try is the Shaper Box. And for this, we've just used one of the built-in rhythms. And this will kind of give us a kind of feels almost like a swung feel to it. I feel like it's kind of going a little bit more than just like slap a trance gate on it, call it a day, and we're done. So if I just solo this out. I feel like if we put like a little reverb on after it. And then maybe a little eighth delay. And then the eighth delay is kind of filling the gaps a little bit. If I just solo the eighth delay. Change this. Take the lows out just a little bit. We can put this first one that we did back on again. So there you go. There's a couple little ways. I think we covered 7 in the end. Ways that you can use extreme stretch to kind of reimagine some audio samples that you might already have, or kind of add a little bit more movement to your drums, or just adding a textured bed underneath. Hopefully you got something out of this, and at least you try maybe one of these different techniques. And at the end of the day, hopefully this has inspired you to create something. And until next time, see you later.